Ladies and gentlemen, joining us now on Rappin' on Racin is a young driver from Pittsburgh's Pennsylvania Motor Speedway. She happens to be the 2022 track champion in the Always Safe Flagging and Traffic Control Young Guns division. She is Emmie Laboon. How are you tonight, Emmie?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. It's been a quite an eventful off season for you. The past, I guess you could say 6-7 months for you has been really eventful. A lot of changes, but all for the good. But let's get to Emmie first. Let's talk about you because, you know, we can talk racing and we're going to talk racing, but I kind of want to get to know you a little bit because I think it's fascinating, the young gun competitors in our division. We have the ability to talk about a lot more in terms of you go to high school, you have a life outside of racing, and but you haven't entered the workforce yet. So there's more opportunity to ask some questions there. So if you're cool with it, may I start by asking what high school you go to?
I go to Thomas Jefferson High School.
TJ, now they're pretty successful, like in sports and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I know the football team's pretty good.
Soccer's good. Volleyball, we got like section champs in both of them. So yeah, we're pretty good in athletics.
Now, what about is there anything that you do besides racing? Like, are you involved in anything inside the school?
In middle school, I used to throw in track, but I don't know if I'll do it again this year.
Did you do it through your high school career?
No, not yet.
Any reason why, or?
No, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not as good as the other girls, so yeah.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, to each their own. If you're not good at it, at least I guess you kind of realize it. But I think it's more or less you just kind of have your priorities in different places. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, makes sense. So outside of extracurriculars, what about in school? Do you have a favorite subject or anything that you do?
I love math.
Yeah. What kind of math are you taking?
Geometry.
Geometry. Have you started into, I presume you have started into algebra. Is that?
Yeah, I took Algebra 1 last year and then Geometry this year and probably Algebra 2 next year.
Okay. What grade are you in?
Ninth.
Ninth grade. Oh, wow. So you just started in high school. Okay. I thought for some reason you may have been older, but that escapes me. So that's pretty impressive. So you already started in Geometry. You're going to start in Algebra 2 as a freshman. I think I did Algebra 2 as like a 10th grader and I failed or just about failed. So ironic that I'm a machinist now and numbers are pretty much important every part of my day. And here you are, you love math, so it comes to you naturally.
Yep. Any
other subjects that you favor?
No.
Oh. Home ec's not your cup of tea then?
Oh.
Okay. What about gym class?
No. I hate gym. Yeah.
Nothing at all? Like no tennis?
I mean, last year I had a pretty good tech teacher.
Okay. I feel that applies to racing a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually won the class tech person award, I guess how you call it.
Was there math involved?
Measuring.
Okay. So what all goes into winning that award?
Just being like a good student, like knowing what to do, like catching on quick and just doing everything right.
So in that, are there a lot of group projects?
Oh, yeah.
Did you find yourself oftentimes becoming the leader of those groups?
All the time.
Yeah. You kind of paved the way. Do you envision yourself as a leader or do you envision yourself as more of a follower?
I'm more like, definitely a leader. Like, I love bossing people around, but like, I also like being independent. Like, if it's like choose to either be independent or partner work, I'm going by myself.
Okay. So outside of school, you're just in ninth grade. I guess we'll stay in school. So you're just in ninth grade. Have you given any thought to your future yet?
No, I wanted to be a realtor, but then I don't know, maybe engineer or something like that.
That's interesting. So what made you want to be a realtor?
The schooling, like you barely got to go to like any college or anything.
Yeah, it's a pretty quick program. So you feel comfortable that you could sell to people? Yeah. You feel like you're a pretty good talker?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. And so realtor, and then you decide, okay, maybe engineer. Is that because of the how favoriting you are toward numbers and the tech class as well?
Yeah.
The nice thing is you have time between now and 12th grade, to start making that decision. So perhaps something else might even come up, or perhaps you'll solidify in a field that you choose. I always wanted to be a weatherman, like in 5th, 6th grade. I was always fascinated by tornadoes, hurricanes, and stuff like that. And something changed. Ironically, it was because of numbers. I wasn't any good at math. So I said, why am I going to pursue a degree in meteorology if I can't do math? And again, here I am as a machinist. So it's interesting how life kind of takes its changes.
Yeah.
So since you're good at numbers, we'll get into the racing kind of thing, because numbers do matter in racing, and we'll talk about your 2022 stats, because to me those matter and those stand out. You look at the stats, you had 5 wins on the season in 2022, which is really impressive. You have 6 in your entire career. You capped off the 2021 season with a victory. You popped back up in 2022 in the season opener with a win, and then you carried that throughout a very successful 2022 season. What do you think contributed to all of that success?
Definitely just gaining hate from people, and just motivation, here, let me prove you wrong. But then I don't know, just competing and having actual competition, and just well, now next week we got to figure out something to do to be better, or figure out middle of the year I figured out maybe I need to keep line, maybe I need to switch it up, and I did, and then that also helped a lot, and it was a big advantage, because running the high side when everybody was on the low, it just got passing was easier. I wasn't having to replace all suspension every week. It just all thought process through the whole week. Just figured everything out at the weekend.
So let's go to that first subject, hate. So what kind of hate were you experiencing? Was it the fact that the girls is competing in a division, or what do you think that was?
No, it was just a bunch of drama, oh, he's cheating, she's cheating, just a bunch of nonsense.
So the fact that you're able to kind of see that for what it is and I hate to say at a young age, because but to me, it shows that you are mature for your age. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I get told that.
Good, because I think it's true for you to realize that and to apply it. So going to the transitional phase of what you were saying, how you were starting to able to pick up on things at the track. You're kind of figuring out how to run that high line, where to get comfortable up there while everyone's running down low. Is that just a seat time kind of thing?
Yeah, it's also a mindset. You have to have that racer's mindset. Okay, and now I need to focus. Now I need to make sure you can't just you can't screw up, yeah, in a young gun with the speed you're going, you have time to fix if you get loose or something, but once that speed accelerates, you need to make sure everything's good.
And the speed at Pittsburgh is nothing to mess with. It's a track that any driver that you talk to will say, oh, it's fast. So though your speeds in a young gun car comparative to some of the other divisions that run at Pittsburgh are slower, sure, but I mean, you got to remember, you girls and guys are first, second year drivers competing in, not only are you learning just how to drive a car, period, but you're also learning how to compete at a high level compared to what you would see driving on a road. So that to me is impressive. And the fact that you're able to experiment with that high line and get more comfortable with going faster, it seems like you had adapted very quick. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I do.
What do you think contributed to that? Is it that you just said it was just a mindset kind of thing?
Yeah, I would after Saturday, the previous Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, throughout the whole week, I'm okay, this is the mindset I need, just kind of just to floor it and just go hope for the best, but also watch everybody around you, make sure you're not screwing anybody else's stuff up, and especially since it's a no contact division, don't get DQ'd. Since I was also running for points and really tight with points with Zoe, it was just you had to no messing up with disqualification.
That's an interesting topic that you bring up. The rules of the division are interesting. As you mentioned, a no contact division. Were there any instances throughout the season that you felt that, it was getting a little bit tough to manage that?
No, I mean, I feel Rappin's racing. I feel there will be contact. You're on a slick track. There's going to be contact. And just, I mean, if like there's problems between racers, you normally just talk it out. I mean, we always just went to Smokey, and a lot of the other racers did too. So, I mean, there was a bunch of young guns meetings too, and everything was fine when it went on the track.
So when you're getting used to those speeds and you're taking some more risks to gain some momentum, to gain some speed, did you have any instances where it backfired on you a little bit, perhaps making contact with somebody, making contact with the wall?
I mean, I feel like everybody, like, just starting out, they're like, okay, I'm going to floor it and I'm going to, like, turn, like, as hard as I can. But you all, like, by the end of the year, too, like, Tennant even told me, like, you have to, like, ease off and on. Like, you have to lift and stuff. And into the turn and out. And, like, I figured that out pretty quick.
So easing on and off, do you mean on and off the throttle?
Yeah.
And so at first, what do you think that you were doing in comparison to that? So you're easing on and off the throttle now. You're learning how to work the throttle, which is good because that's all the more important in a rear-wheel drive car, which we'll touch on that in a little bit. But in the front-wheel drive, you're easing on and off of the throttle. What were you doing before that?
I was just flooring it and, like, sharp.
Okay. Just kind of hoping that it stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of start low into the turn and drift up the track and wonder why the front end's pushing so hard kind of thing.
That's a lot of the contact that was made, too. Never did that, so.
Well, I can tell you this, as you started to gain that experience and having those conversations with people like Bill and even your father, for example, you could clearly see that line became much more consistent throughout the course of the year. Instead of trying to enter low into turns, unless you were intentionally doing that to gain momentum or try to make a pass, I could see you starting to make that transition to a more, I guess, ovular approach to the track rather than a diamond approach. So it was pretty evident. Did you happen to see that from either the cockpit or through camera footage or anything like that?
I mean, my uncle Vince, he always told, like, we have a whiteboard in our room. He would, like, in our trailer, and he, like, mapped it out. He's like, this is the Emmie line. You need to do this, and you need to, like, ease and then go, like, for it. And then Mike told me the same thing, and, like, eventually I just caught on, and I was like, okay, I can't just, like, dive down low and then just, like, by, like, the straightaway just go real high, because that's just not how it works.
And you mentioned Mike. Who is Mike?
Mike Reft.
That is a wily bunch that you're a part of there. Mike Reft, Steven Sheltman, your father. You guys always seem like you're having a good time at the track.
Yeah, especially since Sheltman came into the picture.
So why Sheltman? Does he bring a certain kind of energy? Is it experience? Is it a little bit of both?
Be around.
Yeah. So I guess the other kind of people that you jive with, I've noticed throughout the course of the season, was it seems like for the most part, you girls had a pretty good relationship within the division. Is that the case for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was normally just at my trailer the whole time. I seen, like, Abby, Zoe, and Samara. They became real close friends, and that's good.
As far as watching your competition, you brought up Zoe, and that kind of reminds me because early on in the season, you took off like a rocket ship in the lead in the points. It looked like it was going to be pretty one-sided. Then all of a sudden, Zoe Knight starts picking up, and she goes on a win streak, 3 wins in a row, and was really impressive for a while there and got real close in the point standings about midsummer, where it looked like it was going to be a close race to the end between you two. How much fun was that? Because ultimately, that's kind of what you want to see in the division, right? Is more people kind of learning and becoming contenders at a fast rate.
I mean, it is fun. Like, it was clean. Like, me and her, like, I don't think we ever, like, bumped or rubbed at all. I mean, it was fun. We raced clean, and it was entertaining for the stands to watch.
So as the season progresses, like I said, through the midpoint there, pretty close between yourself and Zoe. But then all of a sudden, something kind of caught fire for you. And it seemed like the end of the season, that's all it was just Emmie Laboon. And you really came on strong at the end when it mattered the most. Do you think it was just that seat time, that persistence on trying to improve yourself, improve your driving style?
I mean, yeah, I had 2 years under my belt, and most of them were just starting that year. And I also just, like Tennant, like, actually, like, I listened to what he said about just, like, lifting and just turn and, like, just control the car, and then because you don't just have to full throttle it the whole time. Like you can lift and stuff and still be as fast as like the first place guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and you talk about Bill Tennant. There's a guy who is not only a former track champion in Pittsburgh, but one of the guys that can pretty much go anywhere in our tri-state area and compete in the front of any field in the front-wheel drive class. And here he is in your back pocket, helping you, give you notes, give you pointers, give you tips. So it seems like you've got a pretty strong supporting cast around you.
We did. I mean, Tennant helped us anytime we asked him questions or needed anything, and he was just always there for us.
That's good. Anybody else that's like that besides like Mike Reft and Steven Sheltman and your uncle?
All the sponsors we have too.
Okay, we'll touch on those sponsors in a bit. Let's keep with the racing format there. So, as the end of the year comes up, you successfully complete the track championship in the Young Gun division, but there's a little bit of news spreading around that Steven Sheltman's backup hobby stock, I guess it was his father's hobby stock, it went up for sale, but he wouldn't say who bought it. It was kind of hush-hush for a while, and inevitably it comes out weeks later that it was you that purchased it. You and your father decided it's time to step into a new division, step into a new realm, and get into the hobby stocks. So what was the initial decision behind that?
We were all at the shop one night, and like we knew we were gonna move up into hobby stock one time, and then like we started talking about Sheltman's, and then we like messaged Sheltman, and then we bought the car, and then we're like, can you just like drive it for us? This is like a Cheplick race, just drive it for us and like shake the car down, make sure everything's good. And he did, and figured out a couple things that was wrong. He figured it out, and then they put me in the car after a race, and I seemed to catch on.
So I remember that night very clearly because after the races are over, it kind of just, there's a hobby stock in staging. And my only assumption was it had to be you. You were going out after the races were over to get a couple laps underneath your belt. And what a time to do it after the lap, because all the races have concluded and now you have a slick track. And that is arguably the toughest racing surface to race on. And you're going out for laps. How was that first time in the seat of that hobby stock? How do you think it went?
I mean, everybody was telling me, like, it's so different, like, it's nothing compared to your Young Gun and stuff, so I just kind of, like, took, like, the first couple laps and, like, just, like, got a feel for the car, and then I just picked up the pace as I went.
Did you feel any similarities between the two cars?
Definitely, like, what Tennant told me, just, like, lifting and stuff and just driving.
So when you feel like you lifted from the front wheel drive to the rear wheel drive, what do you think it felt like to you?
It was a little different. I don't really know. It was just different. It's hard to explain.
So as you're going around, you could clearly see you're picking up confidence, you're picking up speed. And at one point you finally pushed just a little bit too much and you almost approached the wall, but you save it off the wall and you kept it going straight. You didn't spin all the way around, if I remember correctly. So I think that's kind of what you wanted to see. You want to get to that point where you push it so far to the point where you do break and you do spin, because now you know where your limits are at. Do you think you had a chance to find your limits that first session?
Yeah, I definitely did when I was seeing the wall, and I was like, okay, we got this. And then definitely when I like actually like raced with the people, like with my competitors, and like actually hit the wall, I was like, okay, I know this limit too.
So let's talk about that first race. What kind of nerves were you having going out for? I mean, hot laps. You had already been on the track, but it's your first time on the track with other cars. What was going through your mind before hot laps?
I mean, hot laps was fine. Everybody was just passing me, so like Bernard passed me first, so I was like, okay, I'll just follow him, and then Carly passed me. I was like, okay, and then then hot laps was over. So
happens pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
So heat races. Now it's your first competitive race in a rear-wheel drive car in the hobby stocks, with a lot of young drivers. You mentioned Matt Bernard, Carly Kovacs, two younger competitors, especially Matt, just out of high school. Then you got some veterans in that division as well. So now you're starting to mix it up with people who just aren't your peers at that point, but people that you may have watched race as you were a kid. So what was that like? Talk to me about your first heat race.
I mean, I was definitely nervous. I think I scratched, so I started last. I definitely learned that you can't just like hit the throttle and like just floor it going onto the straightaway, because I was looking at the wall and for 1 second. But I mean, just thinking that like all these guys have so many years like under their belt, and that I like was okay with them and like caught up to them and was staying with them for a little bit. I mean, I felt good.
The nice thing is too, feeling good. You know, you've got good equipment underneath you too, right?
That definitely like helped me. Like, okay, I know I got a good car. Like, I know this is capable of winning. So.
And safety. I think that probably comes to mind as well, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think that's one of your dad's first priorities in any car.
Oh, he's definitely like, okay, let's make sure the seat right, make sure your belts are on tight, Hans device, just everything.
So feature time rolls out, and did you scratch for the feature?
I think I started last. No, I think I started like second to last or something like that.
So how do you feel it went for you, that first 20-lap feature event?
My arms were definitely tired by the end of it. But it was good. I liked it.
Did you feel yourself like sawing on the wheel a lot, like making a lot of
because I had a loose car, so.
Okay, yeah, so a lot looser than what you were expecting. So you're moving around a lot, definitely much more than your 4-cylinder car.
Oh, definitely.
So did you feel that was kind of tough to manage, or did you not even realize what was going on until after the time you got out of the car?
I didn't even realize it.
What kind of adrenaline rush was that for you? Was it equal to the first time you in your young gun car, or do you think it was even more?
No, I mean, I think it was like a little less actually, just because I knew knew how to like how the car like handled and stuff. So I was like, okay, we got this.
Do you remember where you finished in that first race?
No, I don't.
Okay. So I don't remember where you did either, but I can tell you this: you were in the mix. You were competing at a high rate, and I think I want to say it was definitely a top 10 finish, just because the car count toward the end of the year started to kind of dwindle down a little bit, and by then 2 points were over. So there wasn't really much of a need per se to be in attendance at that point. But nonetheless, the people that were there, it's not like they're any slouches in their own right. So I would definitely say that you were. It looked like a seamless transition, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was a challenge, but I mean, we had it.
So coming up on the end of the year, I think you ran that in 2 races, I want to say. Is that right?
I think so.
And I think the October 8th race was your last one, or October the last race of the year after the Pittsburgh was your last race in that car, I think, right?
I think so.
And then after the off season, so the off season comes, it seems like for the most part it's going to be a hobby stock endeavor for the 2023 season. Talk to me about your off season. What has your off season been like so far?
Oh, we got the Young Gun sold, and then my dad's just like, "Oh, we should buy Fuzzy Field's Pro Stock," and I'm like, "You're crazy! Like, I haven't even gotten like time in like my hobby stock." And he's like, "Well, would you rather like spin out and get nailed by 20 people in your hobby stock, or spin out and have a lot more better seat time in a pro stock?" And I was like, I mean, I do like pro stocks better, so we bought the pro stock and sold the hobby stock.
So any word on who you sold the Young Gun car to?
I forget. Someone from the pro.
Okay. And then what about the hobby stock? Do you know who you sold that to, or can that be released?
Yeah, Carly's cousin, Cole.
Okay. So that's cool. Is that planning on being a PPMS car then, I presume? Okay. So that's cool. So we'll see a new competitor in that division, but we'll also see a new competitor, most importantly, in the Pro Stock division next year. That'll be yourself. What's that like? So it's kind of been like a whirlwind. Like I said earlier in the interview, about 5 months or so has kind of been a whirlwind for you. A lot of changes, a lot of them happening very quickly. And have you had time to even settle on the fact that you're going to be a Pro Stock competitor next season?
No, I have not, since we're doing World of Wheels. So we've just been trying to get this car ready and make sure everything's nice and clean for it. So
what kind of car did you purchase off of them?
A Pro Stock?
Well, chassis.
Oh, SS.
S&S chassis. So, man, you got a good chassis builder in your back pocket, too. Chris Schneider, one of the, if not the most dominant drivers in all of Western Pennsylvania and perhaps in the nation, if you really were to put two and two together. So he's built the car, and Chris is a nice guy. He's going to explain anything to you, answer any questions that you have. So I think your dad's pretty dead set on S&S chassis, is he not?
Oh, he loves Chris. I mean, Chris will help us out with anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. So you got a good information portal with Chris there. Your dad is no stranger to this game either. He's done this a time or two in his life.
I think, yeah, he has. I think we have a couple of championships in Pro Stock divisions.
Yeah, I can remember back in, I think it was 2020. I think Daryl Charlier and Dave McManus kind of led the charge for a track championship at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and Dave has a couple from a couple years back also.
That number 114 comes to mind. You talk about legacy and how many years you know Ben's been behind this, your father, and how many years now you've been behind this. What stands out about that 114 number? Is it more or less just leniency and heritage?
Well, we had 14. And then, they had 14. They bought 2 Pro Stocks, so they're like, let's just put the 1 in front of the 14. So they made it 114, and that's been fast car since. Did
you have a say in the number, or was it going to be 114 regardless of how you felt?
Well, first year it was 14. He's like, you got to earn your 1. And I was like, okay, I guess I will. And then it was like, just like when we got the wrap, he's like, surprise, you're doing 114. I was like, sweet. And then he's stuck on 114 now. So
do you think you've earned it?
I think so.
That's good. I think you have too. Did you think you earned it before your track championship?
Yeah, I think, after that win, I think I did.
I think that was the point of, okay, this is for real now. This is no longer a we'll test the waters and see how it goes. I think at that point after that first win, did you feel that this was going to be a future endeavor of yours?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it sucked that it was like the end of season, so I just couldn't keep like just going on and winning, but yeah, it was good.
I think it's nice to have something to hang your hat on though, at the very minimum.
I mean, yeah, but definitely the second race, it's like, okay, was that just luck or do you actually have it? So I proved it.
Did you ask yourself that question throughout the off season?
I mean, my dad kept asking me it, but I held on to that.
What was your response?
I was like, well, I guess we'll find out. Like, there's only one way to find out. And then my uncle came up to me after the race and he's like, well, that's the race. Like, I mean, you won that race, your second race too. Like, that means you have it. I was like, I guess so.
Well, I'd say your 2022 season was definitely a showing of that. So with that being said, you make that transition, that first win in 2021, your first year of racing. 2022, pretty much a dominant season for you. Definitely has your confidence riding high going into 2023 in the Pro Stock. Am I correct in that assumption?
I mean, I would say confidence, but like also like nervous because these guys are like, they're good. Like AJ is good, and a bunch of other guys that race Pro Stocks are good. So I mean, it's definitely gonna be a lot of competition, especially if I start getting the hang of it real quick. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge jump. You know, you go from the young gun. Hobby stock is a good, I guess, intermediate point, like a good transitioning point to a pro stock. But your time in the hobby stocks was so small, you're still, you know, trying to gain seat time in a rear wheel drive car, and now this one just happens to have a lot more horsepower. Oh
yeah, definitely speed is going to be like the main thing I'm gonna like have to like catch on real quick.
So going back to the off season, I was asking about how do you think it was going. You said you're getting the car ready, getting it ready for the World of Wheel show, which is great. I'm happy to know that you're going to be there for it and representing technically the Young Guns division as the champion, though you'll have a different car there. Getting that car ready, though, is my point that I want to get to. What has that been like? What's that learning process been like for you?
Oh, it's definitely a challenge because we couldn't get I feel like everybody, when they put a new motor in, it's always like a challenge, like what's wrong with it? I want to start. So we redid wiring, and that wasn't the problem. Then we put a new starter in, and that wasn't the problem. So we just had to like figure out like what the problem was, and I don't think we did.
So you're pretty hands-on in this rebuilding and getting ready process, it seems like.
Yeah, definitely. I've been trying to like learn everything, like how to like fix and like just how to like manage to do everything.
So is that something that you've forced your dad to teach you, or is that something that you're just like picking up on yourself? Is this something that you want to do?
Oh no, all like he always just does it for me, and I'm like, no, I actually want to learn and do it. Like, actually, like teach me it. And he's like, well, it's just like it takes forever. And I'm like, no, actually, like I'll watch, but like you need to like tell me everything and like what it is, and like just teach me.
Do you think he's a good teacher?
No,
Do you think you're a good learner?
I mean I definitely catch on to things, but like learning how to like not like take it off and replace it, because like just like how to like just like fix it and like how to like know like for like shocks or like just like sprains or anything, like just like how to like know like what like to do if like say like he wasn't there one night and like I like needed to like step in.
You talk to any driver, they talk about how much time they have to put into their effort on a weekly basis, on a daily basis. Some drivers say they spend 3, 4, 5 hours a night in their garage trying to get their cars ready throughout the course of a season. Say especially if they had a bad week where they have a lot of stuff that's tore up, it takes time. So I feel like the fact that you're willing to put that work in now in the off season is going to make for a really nice season where those weeks or those days in between race nights, you're going to be able to get a lot of work done.
Yeah, definitely like during the weeks, like they are right. Like it does take like 3 or 4 hours. It's not something it's like, oh, quick fix. Like no, like if like panels are bent up, like you have like hammer it out with not cardboard, wood. And like my like every time, like 4:30 my dad gets off, we go to the shop, we work on the car. And like that's just like that's all year round. That's not just like during the season.
So how does that play into your life? Going back to the beginning of the interview, we talked about how you're just entering ninth grade at Thomas Jefferson High School. You know, what kind of impact does that have on your social life?
Social life, like I mean, yeah, I like talk to them like when I get home from like the shop. But I mean, I don't really like hang out with friends. Like that's not my like first priority. Like I make sure like everything's good. Like in work too. Like I make like work. I always have to. I work like 2 times a week, so it's normally one day on the weekend and like one weekday, but that's from like 4 to 8 or 4 to 9 sometimes, and then on weekends it's the whole day, like from start to close, which is like 12 to like 10. So that also like has a big part into it. So it's just like the time is definitely rough, like just figuring everything out. But I mean, we managed to make it work.
Do you still have time for your friends? I know you said that you don't, that's not your first priority to hang out with friends, but is that something you still make time for?
I mean, I feel like I have enough time with them in school. They sometimes get on my nerves in school, so I think so.
That's interesting. So what do you do for work?
I'm a cashier at Dante's Pizza.
Okay. That's fun. Do you get to reap the benefits of working at a pizza shop? Do you get free meals every once in a while?
Oh yeah, we can eat whatever we want there.
That's good. What's your go-to for a pizza shop? What's your favorite menu item?
Can I have a slice?
What's your favorite menu item on there?
I just love their pizza. Like I don't really branch off into getting like something else.
Okay. I got you. That's always good. So what's your favorite food? Is pizza your favorite food? Does that make this even much better for you?
No. I love fettuccine alfredo.
Okay. Who has the best fettuccine alfredo?
Red Lobster.
Okay. With the cheesy biscuits?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. I'm with you there. That's a solid pick. And that's not one that people bring up often either. So I like where your head's at on that.
Yeah, nobody likes Red Lobster. Like nobody wants to go to Red Lobster, and I'm like, come on, please.
Is that something you had to like twist your dad's arm? What about him? Is he like Red Lobster?
He'll eat anything. Like you just take him anywhere, he'll eat. No, I'm pulling my mom's arm for it.
There you go. That's good. You got to have one of the parents, pretty much give whenever you ask.
Yeah.
Good. So, all right. So enough talk about food. But I just wanted to get to that point of talking about, your social life and what life is, balancing that racing life, work life, school life, because in this whole thing, homework still exists. That is still a thing that happens. So do you have time for homework? Do you feel that your schoolwork, is impacted at all by your racing?
I don't know. I barely have homework. Like, I normally get it done in class, but like studying, that's like the hard thing. Because like, other than math, like I can't like just like keep it in my head. Like I just don't understand it. Like when it comes to tests, like I normally just fail them. Not fail, but like get like a worse grade than I like want. Especially since I have to keep them up to race. So
Oh,
yeah.
so your dad
Or yeah,
is that your dad making you do that, or is that your mom, or a combination?
if you don't have them grades up, you can't race.
Is there a minimum requirement that you have to reach?
I mean, I'm like an A and B student, so like it's not bad, but
Do you feel like high school or middle school has a lot of just make sure you do your homework, and for the most part you're gonna be all right?
middle school is all about homework, but like high school, like there's like two tests every single week, and if not more.
Interesting. Seems like things have changed a lot since I was in high school, which really wasn't that long ago. At least I'd like to think, but that's tough, especially if you're admittedly not a great test taker. But I mean, if you're an A and B student, you're talking at least a 3.0 GPA, if not higher. So I mean, it seems like you got things kind of figured out.
Yeah.
So going back to racing, now that we've touched back on school and work life and social life and everything like that, 2023 is rapidly approaching. You got the World of Wheels show coming up here in January, which I know that you're excited about. At least I think you're excited about.
I am. I'm definitely so excited for it.
Good. Good. I think that's a good opportunity to kind of get some exposure for yourself and to talk about your sponsors, show them off a little bit, show them some extra love throughout the, not that you get the opportunity yourself to do that in Victory Lane. You've had the opportunity now 6 different times, 5 in one season, may I add. So now you get a little bit of extra spotlight on your sponsors. How important to you is sponsorship in racing? What has that been like for you? Have you gotten the experience to talk to your sponsors and to kind of work out deals yourself, or is that more or less something that your parents like to handle?
I definitely like most of our sponsors are like mutual, so like we like always hang out with them, like Gage, Nugent Contracting. We always hang out with him, and just like a lot of them are just like from friends, because I mean like you're not gonna like get a sponsor that you like from a stranger. Like it's gonna always have to be from friendship. But yeah, definitely. And then since sponsor is gonna be like a like big deal for this race season, since of all the expenses, so our racing seat time is gonna be limited.
That's it. Okay. Yeah. And that makes sense. I mean, you got to pick and choose your battles, and stepping up into a division that's going to seemingly cost more, you're going to have to make some adjustments. But tell you what, you said that you wanted to be a realtor and you feel like you can sell to people. I don't know about that whole idea of sponsors having to come from friendships. Do you think maybe that you can kind of, get out of your cocoon there a little bit and try to sell to some strangers and get some sponsorship opportunities for your racing program?
I mean, yeah, that's kind of what we're gonna have to do.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing. Like we can, like I like talking to people, so.
You got some favoritism on your side. You're a young driver, and I think if you tell your story, that's a lot of it there, right?
I mean, definitely they're not gonna want to sponsor somebody who's like slower and like they're like the car is not gonna be shown much, so that's a big part of it.
Yeah. I mean, success always helps. You can tell the people your story, and perhaps if you're not the greatest of drivers, your story should still hold some merit. And I think in your instance, even in your younger stages of your career before you were winning, your story held merit. But now that you have a winning background, you show success and show that progress that you've made through your young career. I think that's a nice selling point too, don't you think?
Oh yeah, it's definitely an advantage.
So, going into that, you kind of mentioned some of your sponsors. Are there any other sponsors that you haven't had the opportunity to mention yet?
Oh my gosh, every single time I always forget the Antons. They gave me the car and we had to gut it out and everything. And Tennant, like I barely like thank him. Like Tennant, he like made my whole like not made it, but he helped me a lot on my car too. And Hoods Up Quick Lube, Paul's Tree Service, he had a big part of it. My dad, my family, my mentors, everybody.
You have some significant family members that we haven't talked about yet, and that's your sisters. And how cool is that to have them? What are their ages, and are they older, younger?
I have an older sister, she's 16, Kendall. I have a younger sister, she just turned 12, Sydney.
Now, do they have any interest in racing at all?
No, I feel like Kendall does, but she said she's scared and said she's just a wrestler.
Well, unfortunately, you just sold the Young Gun car, so that was a pretty easy opportunity to get involved pretty quickly.
Yeah, it definitely was an opportunity.
So, do you feel like that? Are they there every week to support you for the most part?
Every single week.
And do you think they look up to you in some instances, especially Kendall being the older sister?
I mean, I think my sister, I think she says she doesn't like she just like acts like she doesn't like me, but no, she talks about me in racing all the time.
Do you feel like that you have a good relationship with your sisters?
Yeah.
And Kendall, your older sister, do you look up to her, vice versa?
No, not racing much. No, I don't.
What about in life outside of racing?
She drives. She has her license, and I'm like, I have to like keep my eyes closed because she'll just like she likes to like get up on a car and just slam on the brakes if she gets too close. I'm like, oh my god, she loves curbing things too. She can't make she's not a good driver.
You feel like you're the better driver then?
Yeah, definitely. She'll tell me to park. Like if she can't park, like we were parallel parking or something, and like we had to get in between a driveway and a fire hydrant, and she's like, I can't get this. So she's like, can you please park it? Because we're in the middle of a road at this point. Well, the way she parked, and I was like, yeah, I guess.
Well, let's just hope that no law enforcement's watching this because you just kind of ratted yourself out.
No, I'm not driving like on the street. Like I was just parked.
Okay. And what about your younger sister? Do you feel like that she looks up to you two at all, or is there any sort of part of you or your sister that look up to her in some way, though she's the youngest sister?
I think my sister looks up to me. Like she'll like always like ask my opinion and stuff, and if I don't like it, she'll like redo it and stuff and like make sure like she has my approval. But she's like so angry. She's always angry.
So you're the middle sibling. Do you feel that there's that I don't know what the stereotype is for that middle child? Sometimes they say they're like the neglected ones or something like that. Do you feel like that's the case, or do you feel that that doesn't apply to you in this situation?
I'm not neglected. It's just like I'm the one that gets the blame for everything.
Oh, see, I've heard the opposite, where you get away with things as the middle child.
No, that's the younger child.
Oh, do you feel that that's the case for her then?
Oh, definitely.
Well, that's not fair. Do you think in retrospect then that the oldest sister doesn't get away with anything?
No, I feel like Kendall, I don't know. She just she can sneak her way out of it, and then I'm like, wait, no, because if that was me, like I'd be in like so much trouble. But
so overall, a good relationship with your sisters, then you feel?
Yeah.
You have your fights every once in a while, but inevitably you get over them pretty quick.
Yeah.
That's good. Speaking of mentors, besides those close to you, Sheltman, Reft, your father, have you had any other mentors that you looked up to besides? And then Bill Tennant comes to mind. Have you ever had any other mentors that you've looked up to?
My uncle, he'll put his input in.
Any others?
Ben Police.
Why Ben?
I don't know. He'll come up to me and line up and give me some advice. So.
That's cool. And he's a multiple-time track champion in his own right. So, I mean, another great mind to pick off of, right?
Yep.
What about outside of racing? Do you have any role models outside of racing?
Role models, obviously. There's a bunch of racers that are good and they're like young. I just want to be one of them one day, but...
So outside of racing, you keep tying back into racing. That's how I can tell you're passionate about this sport. But outside of racing, you don't have any mentors that you look up to or anything like that? People that you follow on social media or anything?
No.
No, not really. You kind of ride by your own. You just keep it within the community, really, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. On the national level, who do you look up to in racing?
I don't know. I look up to like Mike, but like there is people like I'll watch like good like races. Like the Dome was really good racing, and just like I'll watch people. but Mike was definitely a big help in my race season.
So at the Dome, you watched that race. You mentioned that one. What was your favorite part of watching the Dome race?
Just everybody when they like once like all the racers get onto the mic and they're like Charlie, you can't park there, and then I forget the other guy's name, the New Deal.
Hudson O'Neal, and then the
Yeah.
playoff of Hudson O'Neal and Tyler Carpenter and everybody getting into it.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
So how much is that? It seemed, is that something that you're able to pick up on pretty quickly, or those people like your father, your uncle, Ben, Mike, Sheltman, is it more or less just listening to their conversations and see who they look up to as well that kind of helps you formulate opinions, or are you able to kind of formulate some of your own?
Oh yeah, definitely. I just listen to their conversations and they're like, well, he's doing this and that guy's doing that, so what do we do about this? And just hearing like how they like actually like handle with like their cars and like just like fixing things or like changing stuff up, like new setup or anything for the like week.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds really good. So you talked about Mefford, Charlie Mefford, that sort of charisma that goes into that interview, that after that wreck happens and he's able to give that kind of interview. Is that something that you like to see more of in racing? Is that sort of charisma and that sort of attitude?
Oh yeah, I think it's so funny, and just like how you just got on the mic and he's like, 3, 2, 1, you can't park. And then like I just watched a couple of his interviews and just he's driving with people with a ton of experience, and he's some young kid and just made himself famous.
Do you think that's like someone that you can kind of look up to? Maybe, I don't know. Do you think that's somebody you can look up to? Like, or is it a little too controversial?
Yeah, I do look up to him.
Okay. That's good. That's good. So it's cool. Like watching those national races, are you able to pick up on some things of your own, like on Flow or on Dark Vision?
Yeah, I'll like put like especially like if I go on YouTube and go like in-car cams and stuff, like watching in-car cams and like just like, or when they have the GoPro like on the back bumper and just like looking at all the suspension move when they drive, it's just crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And it's cool that you watch the sport too. You're not just somebody who participates, does it, and just kind of stays in their own lane. They appreciate the sport. You watch the sport, and you get to enjoy it more that way, I feel like.
Oh yeah, we were at my grandma's house like a couple of days ago, and I seen Dirt TV on her phone, not her phone, her TV, and I was like, we should watch me race, and everybody was like, what about Christmas movie? I was like, no. And then they're like, Christmas movie. I was like, okay.
Man, that stinks. That's not fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So going into, we'll try to finish on. I keep getting off track. We talk about 2023, then we talk about Charlie Mefford all of a sudden. Here we are, So 2023, what are you most excited for in the pro stock jump?
I'm most excited just to like get some seat time and like progress and watch myself progress and succeed.
Do you think there's a little bit of excitement to run in the Ed Laboon Memorial?
Oh, definitely. I hope like one day I can just like start that race and win it eventually.
Who was Ed to you?
He was my pap.
Your grandfather. So a lot of personal feelings have to go into that for you, right?
Yeah, definitely, especially since we would always be winning the race and then something would break or we would never be able to finish.
How cool would it be to be the first Laboon to win that race?
Oh, I feel like that would be crazy too.
I think PPMS would go crazy over a story like that. Do you think you're capable of doing it?
Eventually, I think so.
That's good. That's good. And I think you should be. I think you should have that approach, because if you didn't, then there'd be cause for concern of why you're even doing it in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So going into the season, what's your expectations? If you had to make up a set of goals, what would you say are some of the goals on that list?
Definitely 1, keep up with the guys, and then 2, just like get a lot of seat time and figure the car out, and like just like telling the guys like, okay, this bar needs change, like it's tight, it's loose, like that's like I know how to like what to say about that stuff, but like just like figuring the car out, making like, okay, well this doesn't sound right, this doesn't feel right, there's a smell, like something's leaking, or just figuring out, like, especially like throttle control too.
So more or less just improving on what you can control, things things that that you can have a handle on, and just that's more or less what you're focusing on for this year.
Yeah.
Do you have any performance goals set yet?
No, just not get my arms tired every 20 laps.
Well, barring you losing any power steering, I feel like that might be a little bit easier for you.
Yeah, I think so.
So we talked about, you were just mentioning how, if something doesn't feel right, if something doesn't sound right, smell right, something like that, you're able to make the determination of what the car needs. If the car feels tight, you know what adjustments to make?
I mean, I could talk to the guys, but I think like sometimes, yeah.
Are you able to offer that input of, say, for example, the car's tight. We think, I think we should turn a shock this way or turn this shock that way. Are you able to make those suggestions before asking, what do we do?
Yeah, that's a part of like the learning too. Like, I know like, okay, well, if it's tight, then you make like turns on this or that, but like, that's just a whole part of learning too.
So we talked about the hobby stock. You knew you had good equipment underneath you. For this pro stock, it's the same deal, right?
But it's the same deal. It's just different, like with like the just like turns too, since you can't make turns in a hobby stock and just bar angles.
But knowing that you have good equipment underneath you, it's going to give you that confidence of, okay, I know it's not the car. It's probably me at this point.
Yeah, they definitely told me that. Like, my dad kept telling me that my first year, he's like, you have a good car. Like, you just need to try, like, and put, like, your effort into it. And I'm like, okay. But I have a good car.
So what's the ultimate goal? 2023, the goal was to run the pro stock and, to basically just get seat time, gain experience, not get your arms tired every 20 laps, and heck, maybe even pull off a top 10 finish once in a while too. That would even be better. Maybe even a top 5. The rounds are endless, until you really determine what that goal is going to be. It's kind of hard to come up with, but the ultimate goal past the 2023 season, what's the future for you?
Definitely not try wrecking every week. Save equipment and just get as much seat time as possible.
What about racing in a division? Is there a division that if you had to pick one that you would want to race in?
Oh, I always want to race a pro stock.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a dream come true for you at what age?
14.
14 years old, and you're jumping in a pro stock. How fitting that you're driving the 114 as well.
I mean, I loved our old pro stock, like the green cage and just how it looked so clean. I just loved it. So it's my favorite car.
So no desire really to run a late model or a sprint car or a big block modified like what most people say?
I also want to drive a sprint car. Like, I just want to see how it feels.
Are you afraid that maybe if you got behind the wheel of one that you may never want to go the other way and go back to a pro stock?
No, I definitely know, like, it's fast, like, and they ride the wall, like, pretty good. But, I mean, I just want to know how, like, it feels, like, because, like, they're all, like, it's not, like, a whole car. It's just, like, just you on this track.
Do you think your dad would go for a sprint car?
No.
No, not at all. Well, if you start winning races and perhaps even championships, do you think he would change his mind, or is he still not going for it?
No, definitely not, unless a sponsor would hop in.
Well, I tell you what, you're telling me that you can sell, so I guess we'll find out, right?
I guess so.
So going forward, really just looking forward to racing that pro stock for the next few years, getting some seat time underneath you, and perhaps we'll see if we can't see those continuous improvements that you've made throughout your career in the young gun, very quickly in the hobby stock, a seamless transition from the young gun to the hobby stock, and we'll see what that transition looks like in the hobby stocks from the hobby stocks to the pro stocks. So we're getting into wrapping some things up here. Before we wrap things up, you've already thanked some people, but is there anybody else that you would like to thank for getting you to where you are in your young 14-year career?
I think I named the sponsors earlier, but I can't. Octane Customs for the nice wrap. All the time, like, he's been our, like, main wrap guy. Ground Effects Landscaping. I forget. I think that's it.
Yeah, we've mentioned them several times throughout the course of the year, but they're important. They're what help you drive your passion and give you the ability to do this when you can.
Definitely.
So before we close things out here, any closing thoughts before we let you go tonight?
No.
No closing thoughts at all?
Nope.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got a big year coming up for you. 2023 is going to start off quick in January at the World of Wheels Car Show in Pittsburgh. And then before you know it, it will be the end of April, and we're going to get rolling with the 2023 season. So, Emmie Laboon, thank you very much for your time here on Rappin' on Racin'. We appreciate it very much. We look forward to your progress in 2023. Good luck, and we'll see you at the track.
Thank you.